Welcome to the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Welcome to ITSP Magazine. You're listening to a new Two Cyber Chicks podcast. You're about to join Erika and Jax for an inclusive cybersecurity conversation designed to educate and break the stereotypes of cybersecurity professionals while providing life hacks on how to handle burnout, networking, and goal setting. Knowledge is power, now more than ever.
Hey, Two Cyber Chicks fam. Our guest began coding at age 6. Today holds multiple SANS certificates with a vested knowledge within red teaming. Eric Taylor is active in the cybersecurity community through his YouTube channel. He supports others trying to break into the industry. He's owned and operated his own company for over 11 years. Eric lives his life by the golden rule of treating others as you want to be treated, and this is witnessed through his work ethic and way of life. Eric, we've been waiting for this interview. We're so excited to have you here. How have you been? You ready to jump in and chat with Two Cyber Chicks today?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Awesome. Rock and roll. So we want to get started about, what's your background? Like the high level picture of, how you've gotten to where you are today.
That I'm not sure how high level we can go, but I've been a very, very bad boy in my life. As apparently, you went through my LinkedIn, who actually is Eric Taylor, but pulled some of that stuff out. And most people don't even pay that much attention. So kudos to you guys kudos to you girls, my apologies for doing that. But started off, messing around with an Atari 800 LX, drawing a picture, spending a full day typing out in BASIC and then be able to have a turtle draw a star. And I was hooked into this whole mess, and then, getting into BBS systems when you're actually able to do that before AOL, and I can actually communicate with other people and everything. It just engulfed me, And then Windows 3.1 came out and it's like, ooh, what does this file do? Oh, crap. I just crashed my mom's computer and watching my stepdad flipping disks in there to rebuild Windows. So it's been a very, very long time from there to, actually getting in trouble with the FBI for hacking, going into the military, doing various stuff there and being out in the public sector doing, what I love doing, right? Is both making companies more secure by, doing bug bounty programs and trying to help them recover from cybersecurity incidents. It's kind of what my passion is.
Wow, you're saying that so laissez-faire, like, no big deal, FBI involvement, had a van party. Eric, okay, so hold on. I got to take a step back. Got to ask, because Erika had mentioned that you started coding at the age of 6. So I'm curious, and I know the listeners are curious about what you coded at age 6. So do you remember what you coded and on what type of machine?
I don't remember what I coded. Most of it was just, in the basic programming language, because that's really the only thing I had access to. And it was on an Atari 800 LX that I still have to this day over in some sort of box somewhere.
Eric, so did your parents know you were doing this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So not to do too much onusing on my parents, but my stepfather was military doing flight line stuff with, various type of aircraft that we cannot mention. And my mom actually worked as a ad hoc network administrator for an office. So, dealing with both sides of that and, being a product of that type of thing. So, we were, in some ways, we were the Joneses that people were trying to keep up with when it came to technology, and being the first person to have a dedicated phone line so you can get into, AOL and the BBS systems and all that stuff. So when I started, like I said, when I started crashing Windows 3.1 on my stepdad a lot, because I was just trying to figure out how to hack what this operating system does, they pretty much knew they were in trouble.
Oh, man. So, yeah, I feel like you had a little bit of an advantage there with your family, with just being like aware of technology just in general. I mean, I think to like my own childhood, and I think of when we got our first Windows, like man, I don't even know what OS it was on, but it was huge. It took up the whole desk. I had to like reserve my like 30-minute slot to like maybe play a little game or something, right? And it was like supervised because my parents were very much like, this IT thing, I don't know. So I think it's pretty cool that you were able to kind of get that early head start, that, so to speak, playtime, right? Some kids were playing with toys and getting into other things, and you said, hey, this OS, this is my toy.
I had free reign until I got in trouble at 95 or 96, and the FBI came knocking and busting down our door at 3 o'clock in the morning because of my hacking efforts. I was still in high school. I didn't graduate till 97.
Oh my gosh, Eric. Yeah, that's what I was saying about having a van party. This is crazy. Oh my gosh.
So, I mean, I could talk about it now. So, like, my first job was Pizza Hut. And back then, I was doing the dishes and doing the cooking and doing all this stuff. And, sorry, folks, if this gets a little boring, I can go for 3 hours on this thing. But, in the back was the manager's workstation. And I would always hear in the back where somebody was dialing in to the manager's workstation. Come to find out, it was Pizza Hut corporate, because that's how they got in and got all their daily numbers and everything like that to see what the sales were. So one day I was just back there, the manager wasn't around, and I seen the phone number written on the biscuit jack for the telephone line. So I was off the next day. So I just started hammering the freaking phone number, started dialing in and dialing in and dialing in, and start brute forcing my way in there. And that's how I gave myself a pay raise. And that's consequently how I got fired from Papa John's too. Papa John's, I did a little differently. I gave everybody else a pay raise except for me.
Oh my gosh. You must really like pizza, Eric.
Have you seen my gut? Yes, I like food.
Oh my gosh, what a story though. I have to ask, like, before I move on to maybe a more serious question, but like, what was your parents' reaction when the FBI came knocking on your door?
Talking to them now, I mean, my stepfather's passed away, but my mom, thankfully, is still here. But I talk to her about it every once in a while, and she's like, "It doesn't surprise me that you did this, because literally I was able to get out of it because of the way that my high school was structured. So our high school was structured in different buildings. So you had your math building, your science building, your social studies building. And back then it was still a token network. So if you remember those old BMC days and you had a token and everything like that, but those buildings were not supposed to be networked together. But I found a way through one of the VLANs how they actually were. And then I was able to get out and hack NASA and hack AOL and bring down AOL for 3 days through a backdoor run.
Wait, did you?
And because the school,
NASA? You just said hack NASA, Eric.
Yeah.
He said AOL was down for 3 days.
Yeah.
Google it. AOL was down 3 days in 90.
People were mad at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all over Google. I don't know if my name is tied to it anymore or not, but yeah, it was either 94 or 95 now I think about it. But yeah, AOL was down for 3 days because of a backdoor Trojan.
Man, I just wish you had sent everybody pizza. Like,
Dude, I could probably do that nowadays because how interlinked they are. But back then, I'd just been able to send my neighborhood some free pizza or something.
Oh my gosh, the ideas we could have. All right, okay. Back to a more serious question. You are in this ransomware space right now. You've been combating ransomware. Your organization is like based on that. I mean, running a business on its own, no small feat. It's a lot of work. I have so much respect for entrepreneurs, owners, CEOs, all of those hats that you have to wear all at once. What motivated you to start your own incident response company?
I really wanted to make an impact, right? I mean, but I had to ease back into it because of my childhood. I got away from technology altogether. After I got out of the Marine Corps and everything like that, when I was in the public sector, I got away from black box and everything, and I was an industrial electrician for many years. But I had to ease my way back into it. I was too afraid of my own self that I could not hold that line where I don't get into trouble. So it was a long, several year process, where I was just doing bug bounty stuff. Can I legitimately hack these companies like TeamViewer, which I've now been 2 years listed on as their top, which is pretty cool. Hacking things like TeamViewer and hacking things like Datto and hacking things like, these other companies without crossing that line and actually, doing more malicious damage than what I was supposed to do. And once I was able to do that, then it just started spreading into, I just don't want to do IT. Everybody can do IT, right? In IT, while it's gratifying, you're able to fix a problem, but I'm not making a major impact into someone's daily lives. And I think ransomware is where, doing the digital, not only just ransomware, but any of the forensics, right? PCI data stealing, things of that nature, coming in to be able to find who was the bad guy, what did they take, how did they move, and, help them guide through that whole process and be better in the future really is, I think, a real true calling of mine.
Yeah, you're really good at what you do. That is a fact. You're extremely busy. That speaks volumes to your organization, your work ethic, and it's definitely a challenging space to be in. But your background just is so fascinating, where you've come from, the FBI knocking on your door to now battling the bad guys for us and securing organizations. And it sounds like, just listening to you right now and knowing you personally, it sounds like you're really self-taught. And is that an accurate statement? You would say that you're kind of a self-taught technical guy in this space?
I was, but once I wanted to get serious about digital forensics incident response, I dove head into SANS. So we're full GX certified. I've got 6 challenge coins sitting on my desk from SANS certifications or challenge days, things of that nature. And so I wanted to not just get a piece of paper. I wanted to go to where the Cadillac is. Who's the best of the best that is teaching this thing, so I can learn. Because you can learn so much off of YouTube, and there's a ton of people that is doing DFIR stuff out there and putting out some really good content. But I really wanted to learn from practitioners. And not those guys, but SANS has companies that come in who are actual practitioners. So they have a stance like, we don't want just book knowledge people. We want people who are actually in the field doing these things. So all their training is taught by actual practitioners. I'm like, that's where I need to go.
Yeah, you have quite a few SANS certifications right now. And I'm curious, we have listeners that are curious about, do they go to university, regular college, 4-year degree? Are they self-taught, maybe go like a Udemy route and do training on their own, build a box, do that, or do the certification route? What would you say would be the best? Or do you think there's a hybrid approach?
There could definitely be a hybrid approach. I'm not a massive fan of institutional learning, unless you're a doctor or a lawyer, right? If you want to go CISO level, you want to go high level C-suite, then yes, absolutely go institutional. That's the best way you're going to be able to go there and be effective, right? But if you want to be a guy that's a manager and in the trenches, certification 100%, that's the way to go. Depending on the organization and the caliber that you're wanting to go after is really, do you go to Udemy or some of these other ones, or do you go with full on certification? I know in our organization, we put them through, GRC analyst before they even step foot into the building. Well, now it's all virtual, but you get the idea. And then they go through, a couple of CompTIAs certifications, and, then we start putting them through SANS, whether they're going to be a pen tester or, DFIR or whatever the case is. So that's kind of our own internal approach.
So that actually segues really, really well into my next question. So for those listeners that we have that are wanting to kind of seek into this incident response world, right? Like, this is a job that's often, cybersecurity as a whole. Like, when you think of cybersecurity and you're not really in the space, like, you think, oh, I'm going to be a hacker, I'm going to be maybe a pen tester, and that's what sounds sexy, right? Like, you don't know any other titles. You don't really know that even like incident response is something you could make a living in, right? Like, how do you guys recruit? And do you have any tips for anyone that would be breaking into that specific side of the house?
We always get folks that are messaging us on LinkedIn. It's like, hey, how do I do this? And how do I do that? And how do we get into the industry and stuff like that? And the first thing I got to tell you is, you got to have a burning passion for this field. You can't, cybersecurity All right. So let's just say you're in a police department. We'll say police department is cybersecurity. Now you have many facets inside of your police department you have your dispatchers, you have your patrolmen, you have your detectives, you have your forensics people, you have your crime scene people, you've got the janitor. You've got all these different departments inside of the police department that function. The same thing kind of with info security or cybersecurity, whatever you want to call it. There's so many different trades and so many different crafts inside of this that you really got to know what you want to do. That's the first thing. Do you have a passion for this? And do you know exactly where you want to go? Just like in IT, do you want to be a hardware guy? Do you want to be a software guy? Do you want to be a networking guy? Do you want to be a programmer? Do you want to be the guy that goes around and breaks crap? So that's the first things that people got to figure out, and go from there. Where is really your passion? And if it's not in this, like, you don't wake up and you're like, man, for me, it's like, I'm going to go find evil today. Right. Thumbs up, like the old cartoon tick, right? This is not the field for you. It's not. If you don't like being, full of spreadsheets and, doing policies and procedures and things of that nature, management, ICS control that stuff is not for you, right? So you got to find out what drives you and what your passion is.
Yeah, that's what I always hear about pen testers, what they hate the most, because I've been on the management side of vulnerability tests and pen tests, and I see the reports that you all have that are provided, and you have to filter and analyze those to give those to me to be able to brief to the client. And a lot of individuals that get into that role, they always say, I love the hacking part, I love the doing, but the reports is what it's a deal breaker for a lot of people, and they don't.
So let me give a tip for the hackers out there. If you're doing an actual penetration test, document while you test. Trust me, I've been doing this for a long time. I can't tell you what vulnerabilities I found on day 2, on day 5. I'm like, crap. I had a screenshot of it, but my computer rebooted it up to patches. I don't have a saving of that. Document as you pen test. It's the only way to do it. And then, when you're going through day 6 or 7 or however long your engagement is, now you just got documentation cleanup and do 2 reports. 2 reports. You have a C-level report and you have a technical report. You do that, you've completed probably 50%, 60% of your problem. You just got to learn the technical abilities at that point.
Yeah, and writing is a thing in this field. I don't care where you start out. You might not be writing as much, but as you progress, you will be writing reports. It does happen. Wow, this has been amazing. I want to know, though, any big projects, Eric, that you've got coming up that you can share with the listeners. I know that you work with a few nonprofits. Maybe share some work that you're doing in that space.
Yeah, I mean, not to be one of those guys that self-promote himself by any means, but I guess the latest thing that we did was for Hackers for Vets, giving a sizable donation. We're looking to potentially partner up with those fine folks at the end of the year to make another contribution. For those who don't know, Hackers for Vets is a nonprofit that helps honorably discharge veterans, I should say, to get into the world of cybersecurity, info security. So if you're looking to get into it and you need some help and you are a honorably discharged veteran, check out Hackers for Vets. There's a couple other ones that we are in the process of working on that we just can't talk about yet. But yeah, nothing else really major that we're working on right now. It's just hackers are going crazy. So, always doing these cases. And here lately, it seems like some of the cases that we're working on are actually requiring us a physical presence. So, I'm starting to feel like I'm getting feathers growing out my back end again. So with all the flying and everything, but yeah, it's definitely a busy field, but definitely busy time. And I'm glad to be a vessel, to actually give back. So
it's definitely a busy time. Cyber is in hot demand. Your role is definitely in hot demand, and you find time to give back to the community all while doing it. So, from Jax and I's perspective, we really value that and appreciate that. We're big fans and supporters of transitioning vets, transitioning, careers. That's what this is all about, right? Is like, how do we give back to the community? How do we touch somebody's life and allow them with some resources to help them through that transition? So really, really appreciate the work that you're doing. And Eric, anybody that's really interested in connecting with you or learning more about you or what you guys are doing, what is the best way to find you?
Pretty easy. Just go to barricadecyber.com. Literally, my schedule is wide open. You can schedule a time. It's really no sales. If you want to talk, let's just talk. 30-minute schedule. You just figure out what's available to you.
Awesome. All right. So Barricade Cyber, you heard it here. Really appreciate the time, Eric. This has been so much fun. And for our listeners, if you have any feedback, if you have any guests that you want to see on the show, anything at all, please shoot us an email at 2cyberchicks, and that's the number 2, cyberchicks@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, make sure to like and subscribe.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of 2 Cyber Chicks podcast with Erika and Jax. If you learned something new and this podcast made you think, then share itspmagazine.com with your friends, family, and colleagues. If you represent a company and wish to associate your brand with our conversations, sponsor one or more of our podcast channels. We hope you will come back for more stories and follow us on our journey. You can always find us at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society.